What's good, interwebs audience? It's your boy Christian coming at you with another episode of Berean Talk. Today's episode is on being a light. Now, this is one of the most cliche and misunderstood terms in the evangelical community. However, it is one of the most important mandates that we as believers are given. What's the biblical way to do it? And what are we doing wrong? Short answer is a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk. Okay, so being a light. If you're like me and you grew up in the church your entire life, this is probably a concept that you've probably heard of once or twice, maybe all the time. And there's been a lot of scriptures that are used to back up this concept, theory, practice, or whatever you want to call it. However, before we can even discuss this topic, we need to see any type of scriptural background for it before we can even have a discussion. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at a scripture, Matthew 5:13 through 16. We're going to read this, and then we're going to expound upon it a little more, and then we're going to actually dig into what I'd like to say is the meat of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get right to it. Matthew 5:13 through 16. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out, and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle, and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Alright, we all love scripture. This is one of my favorite scriptures out of the billions that are in the Bible, considering that they're all my favorite scriptures. So let's put it out there. So let's get serious though. This is an awesome scripture talking about being a light and what we're supposed to be doing as believers. However, I've so often seen that we missed one of the most fundamental important parts of this whole passage. Let your light so shine in such a way that those in the world will see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Now, I've heard this scripture used in so many different ways, and it usually boils down to, especially with us church folk, it usually boils down to we as believers need to be in X, Y, and Z environment in order to be a light. But is that really what we're supposed to be doing? I wholeheartedly agree that we should be spreading the gospel. However, one thing that the scriptures constantly hammer into us is about our life and doctrine matching up. And I see that so many times, especially within our communities, that this isn't a topic or a discussion that we're having enough as far as our life and doctrine matching up. Because our rhetoric, as fine as it may sound, doesn't matter at the end of the day. Okay, so let's do a little backtracking. In my year and a half, Chandler, what was it, a year and a half? No, seriously, what was it?
For Berean Talk?
Yeah, of absence.
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. Thank you for being a part of the program. About a year and a half of absence from Berean Talk. I know, I ghosted on y'all. Now, all 11 of my subscribers, as I mentioned in the last video, were a bit worried about me, but I'm back. And in my year and a half of absence, I learned a lot of things. Had some great experiences, did a little bit of traveling, met a lot of people. And one thing that, well, let me go back. A lot of people that I met weren't necessarily like me. I'm talking, we had a lot of atheists in the mix, agnostics, and surprisingly a lot of Jews. Don't know why, but that's the case. So why am I telling you this? It's because when I began to talk to them about us, about church folk, evangelicals, whatever you want to call it, there was a constant common denominator about their rhetoric about us or about what they've seen with us. And most of them have a very negative outlook on what we do, how we act, or whatever the case is. Not because even necessarily the words come out of our mouth, even though that is the case in some situations. However, their main problem is what we do. So what are we doing? I heard constant borderline horror stories about people that have been spiritually abused, neglected, ignored, insulted, and observing frequent hypocrisy. Thank you for that. Anyways, so why is this such a problem? Why are people observing these things with us? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to care about a fine-sounding argument if you're telling them and yelling at them from a street corner that they're going to hell. Unfortunately, in church, I didn't hear a lot about this as far as the subject or its importance, or even the other side of us using our scriptures as a weapon. See, we can sit on corners, go into schools, pass out Gideon Bibles, street preach, do missions, pass out gospel tracts all we want. But if our life and doctrine isn't matching up, no one's gonna care. Let me ask you a question. We're gonna get deep for a minute.
We're gonna get deep.
We're gonna get deep for a minute. Have you ever thought to yourself that maybe the reason people hate Christ is because of you? I don't mean like, see, a lot of you guys just went to the, well, of course they're gonna hate me because they hated Christ. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, do they hate Christ because his tool of representation, i.e. you, is a jerk? Do you open your mouth all the time? Do you constantly condemn people? Well, I definitely know I have, and have pushed a lot of people away because of it. I mean, think about it. You look on Facebook, Twitter, different websites and blogs. We're so busy arguing about abortion, LGBT laws, and the like, Second Amendment rights, and we're too busy arguing that we can't just shut up, and listen to the fact that maybe the person that's yelling and cursing at you really isn't just lashing out, but it's a cry for help, for somebody to listen to them. I had to learn that the hard way in some situations, to just shut up. So now, allow me to give an analogy. Imagine that, let's say the whole world is darkness. Reminds me of the scripture. The whole world is darkness, and each believer in this darkness is given a light. Once you've been converted and confess the Messiah, Jesus, or Yeshua. I say Yeshua because that's the Hebrew translation of his name, being that Jesus was a Hebrew from the tribe of Judah. So if you guys want to do some more research, you can, but I'm just letting you know in case I use that phrase in further episodes, videos, etc. So those that believe in the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, are given a light, and we go throughout the earth walking a path. But there are a whole bunch of other people in the darkness. You decide one day that you're going to take your flashlight that you're using to look at your path to see where you're going, and you decide to scan it throughout the darkness. You then land on a person who does not have a flashlight. You can see all the filth and grime on them. You can see that they're stumbling over all types of things. But you begin to shine the light in their face so you can see them properly, and and this person gets irritated because, like most people, including myself, I don't like flashlights shined in my face, especially if I don't know you. And this person, the believer, begins to talk to this person, try to convince them to follow them and to get their own flashlight to be like them. And here's the funny thing about that. While you, the believer, me, the believer, are shining this flashlight in someone else's face, unbeknownst to you, you have been walking in darkness the entire time, which makes you no better than the guy that you're talking to. In the meantime, this guy gets angry and frustrated with you and says, "Get the light out of my face," whatever the heck he wants to say. You then come to the conclusion that this person hates the light. You condemn him, and then you move on with your life. And ladies and gentlemen, in our culture today, in what we do in the everyday life, we've done just that. And although none of us would ever say it because we're good at using fine-sounding arguments and saying the right thing, we've developed this culture, especially in the church, of do what I say but not what I do. I mean, think about it. Why do you think that most kids, by the time they get to their freshman year of college, actually, to be exact, 70%, 75%, give or take, by the time they get to their freshman year in college, are saying, I'm out, as far as being in relationship with God goes? Because they observe so much that isn't consistent. Because they observe the shining a flashlight in each other's faces. You see, one of the things that I find very interesting is that, especially with young people, which is one of the main motivations that I've had for doing this show, is that although we hear a lot of things, we also look deeper. We can also observe. We're very observant. And so that's why so many people are leaving the church, because you can be the greatest teacher of all time as far as you being able to dissect the word, go into the Greek and Hebrew or whatever. But if your wife hates your guts and your kids hate you, then I don't really care what you have to say to me about why my life is wrong. If your own house is in disarray, but yet you think that you can shepherd a flock, so to speak. Okay. So what are we supposed to do? The answer is James 1:22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers, only deceiving your own selves. We have to be doers of the word. Period. We are not to be doers or preachers of our own individual doctrine, but we are to be doers of the word. We're supposed to be a light or a city set atop of a hill to draw people that are in the darkness, to be a city of refuge for people to come to when they are broken, when they are feeling sadness, when they are going through hell in their own individual lives. We need to be that city of refuge for people to come to and to see the light of the Father shining out of us. Because in order for the light to get spread, it doesn't matter how hard you market it. You just need to do what you need to do. Well, that's it for today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you checking in with your boy. I really do appreciate that. So hopefully we've all learned about not only just being a light or what the things we're doing that are wrong, but that we're also learning about what it really means to be doers of the word, to really be examples of what it means to be a follower of the Most High God. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys were encouraged, that you were inspired, and all of those other uplifting cliches that you hear at the end of all your other videos that you watch on YouTube. But until my next appearance on the interwebs, peace.